Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Final Descend podcast, presented by One Season Gear. Logan Sampson, the founder of One Season, has created a versatile, one-of-a-kind call in the Playmate. The Playmate is a single reed call that will let you get loud on those windy days or let you finesse when those birds are making their final descent. Check out One Season Gear on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Final Descend podcast. I'm your host, Wes Calvert. Today with me, I've got my brother, Blake. We are both here coming to you from Central Missouri. We do just about everything across the board. We enjoy waterfowl hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting. During the summer, we like to run the Missouri River and catch catfish. So that's a little bit about us. Blake, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself?
Blake Albert. Me and Wes have been running together since day one. We've hunted everything from squirrels to deer to ducks. Started duck hunting when we were teenagers. I think Wes was graduated from high school already, but we learned a lot about duck hunting over the past couple of years. Whenever we ain't got buddies to go with us, we got us two load up in the truck and go wherever we can get in at.
Yeah, definitely. We've been in the duck hunting game now for about 10 years. Right after I graduated high school, I had a good friend of mine that got me into it, and been hooked ever since then. So the first year we hunted just a private lake of my buddies, and we killed anything from gadwalls to shovelers to ringnecks, killed some mallards, killed some honkers. And it was just an overall great first season experience and a lot of fun. So let's jump on into it. So you got a puppy in the off season, Cash, and this is your first duck dog and first experience training a dog. How did that go for you?
It was definitely a learning experience. The way I look at it as one of my kids. The whole time I was training him, I was thinking of making him the most perfect dog I could. Anything from making him sit, you got to make him sit perfect, to retrieving the hand perfectly. It was a big learning curve, but worked through it. He was a real smart dog. He took to everything real quick. I had him retrieving the hand by, it was probably week 6, week 7, and we just went from there. So.
Yeah, it's been real fun to watch you work with him, and he's come a long way in such a short time, and it's hard to think that he'll be possibly going on his first hunt this weekend. I know I really enjoyed being a part of it. We took him out and got him around gunfire, and it's just really cool to watch him do his thing and really pick up on things fast and just see that click in his head, and that was just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so
we got him out on his first goose hunt, early goose season, first week in October. It wasn't no crazy barn burner hunt, but we knew there'd be a few geese in the area, and we were able to work them in. And we only shot one goose that day, but he got to experience, letting the geese come in and land, and letting them work and staying in his kennel. He actually did pretty good. He didn't bust. I expected him to bust. I was okay with it if he did. He didn't bust, stayed in the kennel and waited till his time to go. And he didn't end up getting to retrieve. My buddy's dog got there a little bit quicker than him, but that's what happens when you got a 5 or 6 year old dog versus a pup. So he was more just having fun and getting him out in the hunting world and letting him do his thing. So
yeah, Moose is something else. He's a dog we've had the fortunate to hunt with many times, and just a great dog to be around, and found a lot of birds for us over the years.
Yeah,
so
saved us a lot of walking.
Yeah, definitely.
But I kind of based my training off of watching him. I watched him grow up from a pup, he was sent off to a trainer. Kind of based my training off of watching that and watching some YouTube videos. And another one of our buddies has a dog too, and he's trained a few dogs. So I kind of bounced some ideas off of him on how to do things. And he helped me along the way as well. But
Yeah, especially when it's your first dog, you're not just training the dog, you're also training yourself.
yeah,
So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. You work together, and it's definitely a process and something to go through. So
I've been on I'm on some groups on Facebook, some duck dog groups, trying to learn things, pick up from other people. And one thing that hit me pretty hard was the only thing that I think I'm gonna let my dog down on is me holding him back on his training. I'm not gonna have him train to his full potential, but I think you'll have that with every person that starts out with their first dog, is they're not gonna know everything to do and what to do, and it's gonna be a learning process every hunt.
yeah, it's most definitely a learning process when it comes to a new dog. So it's going to be fun to watch him this year and watch you two grow together and see how he does this year, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't have them on hand signals yet. Plan is just to let him have fun this year, hunt him till the ice comes on. If he's enjoying it and having fun when there's ice on, I'll hunt him through it. But I don't want to push him too far and get him too cold on his first year hunting and not let him have fun. So, uh, but next year, plan is to get him on the whistle and get him on hand signals and really have the ball rolling for next year. So I'll have more of a full year of training, full off season of training versus this year where we didn't get them until March, and I've been training since 1st of April pretty much. So,
Yep, it's going to be a good one for sure. So speaking of good one, let's let's talk a little bit about the upcoming season. We start the Missouri Duck season here in 2 days, actually. Well, a day. So we've been gearing up for that this week, getting the boat ready, getting the motor ready, getting decoys rounded up and whatnot. Definitely been a little excited. Haven't been sleeping as much. Been thinking a lot more about it. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
yeah, this year I've got a little more pressure on me with the dog. Both of us have been working our butts off all summer trying to get prepared for it, and it'll be I'm real excited about it. More so of watching the dog work. Usually this time of year, the end of October, 1st November, my head is chasing whitetails, chasing with a bow, and right now the rut's just starting to fire up around here, and I'm watching everybody. Talk about scrapes and their does start chasing, and I'm excited personally to be deer hunting, but I don't have a farm to hunt this year. I lost the farm from last year, but with the dog, it makes it a little more easier not to think about deer hunting right now. I'm more worried about watching him do his thing and get as many ducks as I can in front of him.
Yeah, so going into this year, it's going to be a little different than last year. Last year, with COVID around here in Missouri, our season changed dramatically. For those of you that don't know, Missouri goes on a draw system. 50% of the daily positions available at a managed waterfowl area is done through an online drawing. Well, the other 50% is reserved for people that show up that day and want to try their hand at drawing. Basically, a lottery draw. You stick your hand in a box and pull a pill out. If you draw a number low enough to hunt, you get to hunt. Last year with COVID, of course, reaching in and touching a bunch of different stuff that other people touch was kind of off limits. So they shut everything down after the first weekend of the season. And they moved everything to all online draw. So we didn't have that opportunity that, if we didn't get in on an online draw, we couldn't just go on the weekends or go, whenever we wanted to and go try our hand at the pour line. And that was tough. I mean, it cut our hunting in half last year.
I'd have to agree with that. It was a big learning experience for sure because we went from just going and trying our luck at the pour line to having to put miles on the truck. We were putting a ton of miles a week on our pickups, just trying to find birds, which they do that in other states. But here we kind of get lucky. We can just show up at a managed waterfowl area, go pull a pill, and hope we get a good enough pill to get a good spot. But we didn't duck hunt nearly as much as we did in the years prior is I think we chased more Canadas last year than we did ducks.
Yeah, we shot quite a few geese last year. We got out and hunted some other areas throughout the state that you can hunt, just walk in hunting, and we shot a few birds here and there, but nothing like we normally did. It's going to be exciting to get back in the draw room. Everybody, if you talk to anybody from Missouri, there's always a grumbling like, oh man, I got to go to the draw room again. And, but it kind of gets me excited. You get in there and get to talk to everybody, and people don't realize how exciting it is to stick your hand in that box and pull out a pill, and you see pill number one come out, and you're like, man, that's awesome. We're going to shoot some ducks today. So,
yeah, when everybody walks in the draw room, they're all either hungover or tired. Everybody hates each other until everybody clears out. It's just the guys that have the spots to hunt, and then everybody, you keep yourself quiet, but everybody's in there excited and ready to hunt, and they all know it's going to be a good day of hunting. So
yeah, there's definitely an aspect to it, and we didn't get to experience it very much last year. We did have some hunts on the managed waterfowl areas. We managed to kill some ducks here and there, and this year it's going to be a little different because we get back to normal and get out there and get to enjoy the areas again that we were used to enjoying. So
I'll let you do your thing with the pillbox. I like letting Wes go up and hang out at the pillbox and draw every time because I never draw anything good at all. So I just kind of hang back and we all poke fun at Wesley for getting up there in front of everybody and pulling the pill. And if he draws bad and we don't get to hunt that day, we're cussing him all the way home.
That's right. But hey, I've got big shoulders. I can carry the burden. I get so excited to pull that pill. It's like it's an adrenaline rush. You get up there, and I think it was 3 years ago on opening day of season, there was 100 parties for I think 30-ish spots. There was.
Yeah. Half of them were reservations, so you were technically only drawn for 15 spots.
Yeah.
So
and I ended up drawing pill number 2 that day. Talk about excited. I walked out, couldn't, hand was shaking, so excited. And, I, couldn't even hardly contain myself. But we got into them that day. It was an opening day banger, and it was quick, fast, and in a hurry. I think we shot our limit by maybe 9:00 that morning. We shot some pintails, a couple mallards, some teal, shovelers. We shot a whole array of ducks that morning, and we haven't got in on opening weekend in a couple of years, so hopefully this coming weekend we'll have some luck and we'll get in and get to do some hunting.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about some favorite hunts from the past years. One that really sticks in my mind every time somebody asks me, what drives you to duck hunt? And it was the classic morning everybody thinks about. It's cold outside, there's ice, there's, trying to beat through the ice. We had snow shovels out, and we worked for an hour to clear a hole in the ice. And it was after daylight before we even had the chance to even sit down and start enjoying ourselves, because it took us, it was just me and you out there, and we cleared us a big hole in the ice, got our decoy set out. But man, it wasn't no longer than we got those decoys set out, the ducks just started pouring in on us, and we could just sit there and pick our ducks out. That was a fun morning.
Yeah, I think it took us longer to bust a hole in the ice and get us somewhere where we could set decoys than it did shoot our ducks that morning. I think we shot our ducks in half an hour, 45 minutes, and which we were told that. I mean, the guy at the draw room said, if you get in there and bust you a hole, he said the ducks are going to be there. They've been there the whole time. So
yeah, it was a barn burner. We, wasn't 45 minutes, and we both had our 4 mallards, and we were pretty content with that. And we started packing up our stuff and left. But it was cold that morning, cold. Probably one of the coldest mornings that I really remember being out there. So
That kind of reminds me of that hunt down at Eagle Bluffs. I think it was you, Dad, uh, me, and Parker. We went into that spot. We worked our butts off, busted a hole in the ice, and we look over in the waterway, and there is a hole of water, and the ducks are just pouring into it. So we just packed our stuff up, shot across there, and got in the waterway. And we didn't shoot a full limit that day, but what birds we saw, they ended up working in perfectly. And I think we shot 18 or 20 ducks that day.
yeah, that was definitely a fun morning, and that was one that the ducks they weren't even thinking twice. They were cupping up and they were coming.
They seen that open
fun.
water and they were just piling in. But that ice it'll make or break you. If you don't have a big enough hole, you're not going to kill them. But if you do get you open water and get plenty of water in there for your decoys to move around and for the ducks to come in and set, they're going to come right in.
I swear it off every year. Usually after usually after the last ice hunt, I'm like, man, I'm not fighting the ice anymore. I'm not doing it. But then it comes around again the next year, and we've just got that drive to get out there and go, and we go. So
I think the ice always hits right when we're in a dry spell of drawing in. And then we go in there. Nobody wants to hunt in the ice. There's nobody in the draw room. And we usually get a good pick. And then we go in and put the work in. And some days it works. Some days it doesn't. I mean, you kind of, it's kind of like kind of like drawing in. I mean, you get lucky sometimes. Sometimes you don't.
yeah, sometimes you draw a good spot and it gets ruined by other people. Typical public land hunting. We had a hunt one morning at Grand Pass where we drew a pretty decent spot, and it's a spot we know very well. And that pool particularly is split, and the people from the north side of the pool had come all the way down to the very southern edge and set up within 80 yards of us, and it was just a nightmare. They were calling it birds circling. They were, doing this, that, and the other. And it was just a tough one. We finally got sick of it and packed up and walked out. But, sometimes you're going to have those bad experiences on public land. You take the good with the bad and just roll with the punches.
I think we made up for that a couple of years ago, though. We went into another pool up at Grand Pass, and it was you and I and a couple buddies from high school. We were the first party in the pool, and we knew where we wanted to be, so we got in there and got to our spot. Well, we started banging on ducks right at daylight, and I think we had two limits of mallards down already, and they ended up finding out the next corn row back next bunch of corn back, there was a group back there, because ducks wouldn't work us, but they'd pile in back to them. Well, they'd miss their ducks, and you could hear them in the back there, man, we suck. We're going home. I'm tired of this.
Yeah, that's a fun morning. It's always funny when you hear something like that out in the marsh. You can hear other hunters or something every once in a while say something like that, and it definitely makes for an interesting morning.
That morning was the first morning I think I've ever seen a goose get shot on conservation or a managed waterfowl area. We were just sitting there hanging out, and one of the guys that was with us, I'm like, man, there's a goose out in the spread. We're like, well, shoot it. And he pulls up and shoots and walks out there, and it's a blue goose. He just dumped in the spread. We're sitting there shooting the shit and hanging out and waiting for more mallards, and he dumped right in like a mallard, and he ended up getting shot like a mallard.
That's exactly right. He came right in there, and I caught it out of the corner of my eye, but I didn't see what it was, and he flew across me and down onto you guys, and he ended up shooting. I couldn't believe it either. That was the first one I'd seen. That was the second goose we had seen, because we hunted down at Eagle Bluffs that morning. It was me, you, my buddy Logan, and our dad. And we drew a low pick that morning. We had drawn kind of a low pick and went into a pool just to hunt, because we it was after Christmas is what it was. So nobody had hunted the place for a day. So it kind of gave everything a break, and we went in and We ended up shooting some ducks that day, and we had some geese fly over, and they were probably treetop high, and Dad made the comment, shoot one of those. So Logan turns around and pulls the gun up, and boom. And I wouldn't be damned if the goose didn't fall out of the air. I mean, landed almost right on top of us.
yeah.
I mean, within a couple feet of us, it landed. We couldn't believe it. That was pretty cool to see. It just stuff like that you don't expect to happen and happens is always fun.
Yeah.
So, but last year we had a pretty good hunt on the Missouri River. Actually, those are one of the things we've always heard since we started duck hunting was, man, the Missouri River, when everything freezes up, it's awesome. It's the best hunting you'll ever have. Best hunting you'll ever have. And every year, we never seem to quite catch it right. It either, wouldn't freeze up during the season, or it'd freeze up and the ice would be on, we'd wait too late and then the ice would be on the river too, and we wouldn't be able to get on the river. But last year,
that was another one of those day after Christmas, and I was able to get out and scout a little bit the evening of Christmas, and I don't think my fiance was too happy with me because I snuck away for Christmas, but I got down there and I got down on one of the gravel roads down by the river, and I happened to look up, and there's a sandbar, probably half a mile up there, and I was looking through binoculars, so I'd seen, probably 20 ducks pile in next to the sandbar. And I got binoculars out. I was looking. I was like, man, there's a lot of ducks sitting up there. So I immediately get on the phone and call Wes. I said, hey, we're hunting in the morning. I got a spot. Well, we've got a boat ride. And he's like, all right. So I text my other buddies. I was like, look, I got the duck hunt. I said, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but if y'all want to go, we can go. And they're like, oh, yeah. I called Dad. Dad's usually done hunting by middle of December. When it gets cold, he's done. And I told him what was going on. And luckily, the boat ramp from his house is probably 5 minutes. So he's like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. So there's actually a boat ramp, probably, you think, a mile or so from where we hunted.
yeah, thereabouts.
And it comes creek feeds out into the river there, and I went down to check the boat ramp, and I seen it was just like no water at all. And we got a big 20-foot boat with that big outboard on the back, and I was like, man, we're not gonna be able to get through that with that. And the boat ramp that's just down from Dad's house, it was probably maybe a 7 to 8 mile boat ride upriver. I told them, I said, we need to get in there early. I said, there's guys coming out from hunting the river that night. I said, we're going to have competition in the morning. So we get out, I don't know. I think we got to the boat ramp 3:30 that morning, 3 or 3:30. Put in, all butt up river, and we get up to our spot, and we're already set up before we even see the first boat come out of that creek and start coming up our way where we were set up at. Well, I think we seen 5 or 6 boats that morning, but that was one of those mornings that you watch on TV. You watch 1,000 ducks work over the top of you, and we'd have groups of 10 to 15 ducks come piling in the spread, and we'd call a shot, and there'd be so many ducks out in front of you, you don't even know which one to pick out. You just start shooting, and it was pretty hectic there for the first hour or two, but once we started getting a few ducks under our belt, we started kind of settling in and picking out our drakes, and I think we shot a few pintails that morning and a few teal. I think we got one diver out of that.
Yeah, we killed a good range of ducks that morning. Yeah, it was absolutely incredible to watch the ducks that morning. I mean, they were just circling. I mean, it was like a beehive out there.
Yeah.
The ducks that weren't even necessarily, working us particularly, but just flying in the air. There was just a lot of ducks around that morning. You don't see very many mornings like that where there's that many ducks in the sky, where you're just constantly looking and constantly watching.
Well, it got to the point too, there's people, we were on the backside of a managed area on the river, and it seemed like whenever there was a couple hunters out on the managed area that broke through the ice and they were hunting, but it seemed like every time they shot, we'd see a pile of ducks get up and they'd come work us, and then we'd shoot them, and then they'd go back and sit on the refuge for a while. Well, then it got to the point where they were done hunting, and then the sun had done rose, and it started warming up, and the ducks started getting up and moving really, really good.
Yeah, that was definitely something. It's a hunt I won't ever forget. It was just crazy how many ducks were in the sky that morning.
Well, that morning we weren't even at the spot yet, and we were almost there, and it was like 20 something degrees that morning. We're all huddled. Everybody's huddled in the bottom of the boat. I'm hiding behind this little plexiglass windshield I got in front of the steering wheel.
Yeah, you got your skiing goggles on
I got
too.
my goggles on, running up river. We get up the spot, and I was like, man, there's something on the water. Well, then everybody stands up immediately, and they're starting to look around. Well, we drive up, and we hit a raft of ducks, and ducks just got up. They sound like jet engines getting up off the river. They just took off, and we had one duck. He stayed in there. It was a real confidence booster whenever we pulled up and I seen that raft of ducks. I knew at that point I didn't waste everybody's time on coming out on that cold boat ride up. But
Yeah, it was something. That was one of the coldest boat rides I've ever been on. I mean, we were all just huddled. I mean, I just had my head buried between my almost between my legs. I was just trying to keep the wind off me. It was so cold, and I would look up every now and then to kind of see if I could tell where exactly we were at on the river, because that's an area we fish very heavily, and I was just trying to see if I could tell. Like, man, are we getting close? Are we getting close? And that was a long boat ride, but well worth it. Well worth it.
that boat ride definitely beat. Oh, it's been a couple of years. I think it was you, me, and Juler. We got in up at Fountain Grove, and we took off in the little boat, and there was ice, and we were busting ice with the motor, and we just have a little 6-horse mud motor on the back of a 16-foot boat that we use at the managed areas. It can get about anywhere, but it does not like the ice. I get about 10 or 15 yards, and the motor would die on me. So there I am cranking, and I get it to fire up, and we go another 10 or 15 yards breaking the ice. And I think it's a half an hour, 45 minutes before shooting time. And I pulled on that rope to start it, and it backfired. And I was like, oh, shit, we're getting a ticket. They think we're shooting.
Yeah, they thought we were shooting early, but it was really just the motor backfiring on us. Yeah, that was another cold morning. We broke ice all the way back in there, and it was just a relentless ride, just constantly having to jump on the front of the boat to get it through the ice.
Yeah. It was one of those humbling experiences.
Yeah,
sure.
And once again, we fall back on ice, which you necessarily can't avoid it at the end of the season. You've got cold temperatures and whatnot. So speaking of late season hunting, let's talk a little bit about goose hunting.
Goose hunting is a very, very cutthroat hunting. That is one thing we post about it on social media about how well we do, but we try to position the pictures and don't tell anybody and try to keep it on the down low on who lets us hunt and mainly what town we're hunting in and where we're seeing geese. And it's a very, very cutthroat style of hunting, I should say.
Yeah, it is, and it's become very popular over the last several years. It seems like a lot more people getting into it. So it's getting harder to get on places, or getting harder to find places where there's not a concentration of people. You always try to get away from the group of people and try to find places that other people aren't. But it's getting hard to find those places. We're doing a lot of scouting throughout the week when we can. Of course, we both work full-time jobs, so we can't always scout.
It helps having buddies that you hunt with too that scout. We got one buddy that he scouts nonstop and puts us on birds pretty much all the time. Whenever we don't have a spot, he usually can drum up a spot out of the middle of nowhere when nobody's finding birds. He usually has a pond in his back pocket, it seems like, and he always is like, "Yep, we got a spot, we're going." So that helps out quite a bit. But
yeah, and when it comes to goose hunting, that's one thing you got to do is you got to scout, and scout some more. So if you have a full-time job, or you don't have time to get out and scout, it's really hard to get out, have some successful goose hunting around here if you're not scouting and know where they are or know what field they're hitting, because geese are not like ducks. They're not
where they want to be. You're not going to have any luck.
If you catch them on the right day, you can run traffic on fields, but it is hard, in my experience around here, just to run traffic. And more or less, you need to be right on the X of where they're wanting to be, or they're not coming to you. And even when you're in a field where them geese have been going all the time, it still seems like sometimes it's hard to get them to commit. And early season last year, we had a field that we scouted, and they were in there almost all week. And then we went in there and hunted them that Saturday, and the birds just kind of they skirted us, and just kind of acted funny. And so sometimes that field goose hunting is very very tough. They are very picky about where they're wanting to go and what they see.
Yeah, I think too, with one of our buddies, I was talking to him early goose season. I think when geese have been on a spot for weeks on end, I think you have to spend more time on a hide versus a place you're just going in and winging it, because the geese haven't been there. They don't know exactly what it looks like, and you catch those flight days or feed days, like you catch a weather front moving in, you can go into about any field, it seems like, or any pond, and you can pull birds down and have no issue shooting out any day like that. But those sunny days, it seems like those sunny days, you've got to be on the X, or a warm day, you got to be right where they want to be and be hid good. It's a little harder to pull them onto a field edge on a sunny day. Or I mean, we even that day I shot my first band. They were calling for a big ice storm that Friday. It was a Friday night. They were calling for a big ice storm, and Saturday we were planning on hunting. And we knew it was going to be a low sky, and the birds were going to fly early, and that weather front was moving in all day Saturday as well. And we went out on a limb and tried it, and I think there were 6 guys, and we ended up with a 5-man limit. Well, the first group of geese that came in, we ended up shooting a band out. It made it worth it. The band, it seems like a band's, you can have a bad day, shoot 1 or 2 birds, and then end up banging out a band, and it turns the whole hunt around. It boosts your morale, and you're ready to go from then on out. But,
Yeah, funny thing was, usually on those morning hunts, I've got a 64-ounce Yeti jug that I fill up with coffee, and I had left it sitting next to one of the decoys out in the field, and we kind of joked that goose seen that shiny and thought, oh man, there's another bird with a band. I'm going to land with him. So it was kind of crazy, but yeah, that morning there was supposed to be. They warned us all week. There's going to be, oh man, there's going to be this ice storm. There's going to be this ice storm, and it had, we got a little bit of weather. It wasn't bad. We didn't get the ice that they were predicting us to get, but we got a little bit of, it's kind of like a misty rain, just kind of a dreary, nasty morning. But man, them geese got up and came to feed that morning, and it was on. That was a fun hunt.
We had a hunt kind of like that last year. I mean, it was the last day season. There was probably 80 or 90 birds on this lake that we have permission to hunt on, and just up the road there's a bigger lake that always holds geese, snow geese, specks, kind of holds everything. And we went in there that morning. It was sunshine until about 10 o'clock, and I think the front rolled in about 11 or so, and we shot quite a few birds. Right off the bat, I think we had we're almost to our Canada limit, and kept shooting them. Well, I think we finally finished out our Canada limit around noon. Well, then the specks and snows came in, and they started barreling in. We didn't end up killing any snows. We shot mostly specks, and I think when we finally were almost done with our spec limit, I texted Wesley. I was like, hey, I said, we're just outside of town. I said, if you want to come out and shoot your geese, come out, hang out with us, and we're going to hunt. We're going to hunt till we finish out. And I think we ended up being right before dark, and
we killed our limit that day.
Finished out our limit that day. That day I actually got a text from a taxidermist. Last year I shot a big deer, and got a text from a taxidermist. He's like, hey, your deer's done. So I ended up leaving like midday, and whenever you showed up, I was leaving to go get my deer.
Mm-hmm.
And I left, and they shot 1 or 2 birds, and I come back, and we're hunting, and we drop 1 bird, and the lake was freezing over at the time. We had to go in and bust ice that morning. Had the ice heater running for a while. Ended up the
heated corn pond.
Ended up buddy's dog went out to get the bird. He ran on the ice and got to the bird, and he fell through the ice and couldn't get out. Well, I was the only one wearing waders that day, so I take off running out there. And I know the pond fairly well. We hunt it all the time, so I know I can get pretty well across the pond to wherever I need to be and not have any issues. Well, I take off running out there, and I'm high stepping it. knees to chest, running out there trying to save this dog. And I get out there, I get to about my waist, and I start having to take my hands, and I just ball two fists and start breaking ice all the way through. And I get up to the dog. I grab the dog, and we start headed back to the bank. And the dog sees a goose sitting up on the ice. Well, he wants to take off and get all back up on the ice and take after the goose. I was like, no, shithead. We're going back to the bank, and we're getting back and getting warm while I try to stick it out. And I think I stuck it out for probably 5 or 10 minutes in the blind trying to stay warm. I was like, you know what, y'all can have it. I'm going home. And I think after I left, it wasn't a half an hour later, and y'all shot your last bird, and ended up calling it a day. But
yeah, that was a pretty intense moment too. I mean, the dog fell through the ice, and that just wasn't fun to watch. But yeah, you went out there and got him and saved him, got him broke free from the ice because he was having trouble getting back up on the ice because the ice was breaking, and we were able to get him out, thankfully. And that's just one of those situations that you never really want to get caught in. It's one of those situations you hear about all the time. People unfortunately lose their dogs to situations like that, and it's just not a situation you want to be in. So we try to avoid those situations as much as we can. But yeah, it was the last day of the season, and it was definitely a fun one. The geese were coming in and flying all day that day, and it was definitely a fun one. So then that led us in to snow goose hunting.
snow goose hunting is a pain in my ass. 100%. You can go in, watch a feed for a night, and the next night they're going a mile and a half the other way going to a feed. And we went back to that same pond that we were hunting the last day of Canada season. And on the north end of the lake, it turns into sheet water. And we just took our socks and full bodies and ran them kind of on the edge of the lake. And up towards the north end, there's a finger that kind of turns into a waterway almost. And we filled that plumb full, kind of like the geese were hanging out up there. And we put a couple A-frames and just tried it to see how it worked. And it's one of those hunts where you want to try something, but you're kind of scared too. And we did, and it worked out. I mean, scratched out 20 show birds, and just had a good time. It was a real good hunt for camaraderie, and we kind of shot the shit all day long. And when the geese worked, they worked, and when they didn't, we just hung out.
It was definitely a comfortable hunt. I mean, it wasn't cold by any means that day. I think it was, in the maybe upper 30s, low 40s. Sunny day, wind was blowing. So yeah, the birds worked when they worked, and it was a fun day. Definitely, we sat out there all day. I think that was the first time I've set out daylight to dusk, and not been shooting ducks. Obviously there's been some days where we sat out there duck hunting, daylight to dark, but that was my first snow goose hunt, daylight to dark, and it was definitely fun. What wasn't fun was the next day picking up all those decoys. We were wore out from the day before. We went and hunted that morning, killed some more birds that next morning. And then we got to the middle of the day and decided to call it quits. And then the work started.
Yeah. Well, our buddy, he kind of got us on the lead or he did get us on the lead of all the decoys that we hunt with, and he was off the day prior, so I think he started at like 9 or 10 that morning and started setting up decoys. I took off at noon on that Friday, and I went out there and started helping him, and when everybody else started getting off work, we all just kind of pitched in and set out decoys, and it made it go by. But definitely picking them up was the hardest part, because you were tired and ready to go home, and we just kind of threw everything in the decoy trailer and headed home. But we went right before early goose season. We went back into the decoy trailer, and it was like, holy crap! I can't believe we loaded the trailer this way. But we ended up getting the decoy trailer cleaned up and ready to go for this year. So
yep, it is quickly approaching us. Duck season's this weekend, and goose season will start on the 11th, I believe, in November. Veterans Day goose season always opens on Veterans Day here in Missouri, and man, it's just right around the corner. I've been getting excited and ready to get after them again. It's been a long off season with COVID and everything, and Off season seemed to drag on that much longer this year, and now that we're finally back and excited and ready to go, it's time to get going again.
You kind of get that superstitious feeling whenever draw comes around, because you want to think in your head like, man, we've had pretty good success opening day getting drawn in, and then the back of your mind's like, you shouldn't have thought that. You're gonna jinx it. You're not gonna get in. And I mean, I just want to get in and get some birds in front of my dog and kind of get back in the swing of things. But I don't know. Kind of this year, I've changed my outlook on duck hunting per se. Instead of going in trying to kill a limit every.
And getting back in the swing of things, what we'll be doing. Duck season starts, like I said, again this weekend. For the North Zone of Missouri. We're going to go try our hand at the draw and see if we can't get in and do some damage this weekend. So we're really looking forward to it. Blake, I appreciate you coming on and talking with me tonight on the first episode of the Final Descent podcast. Thanks for stopping by. Once again, check out One Season on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. The Playmate is one of the most versatile calls on the market right now. They sound great. Blake can even attest to this. He blows the same call I do. That single read, you can really get on it and scream.
Yeah, I run the single read. I'm very, very happy with how the single read turned out. I can do about anything I want to it. It's killed a lot of ducks so far, so check them out. Great.
Yeah, Logan sent us out a couple of calls when he first started producing these things, and man, they sound great. I'm really looking forward to using it again this year. And once again, One Season on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you, everybody, for listening on the opening episode of the Final Descend podcast, and we'll catch you the next time around.